Senator Joe Manchin calling President Biden's student loan handout excessive, telling reporters, quote, "There's a better way to do it." This just weeks after he helped push through the Democrats' massive tax and climate agenda. Joining us now, Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty. He's a member of the Foreign Relations, Appropriations, and Banking Committees. Senator Hagerty, James Freeman is also here from the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to steal what he was talking about earlier. He mentioned, should he have not just come out and said that this is government overreach and the president doesn't have the authority to do this? But to say it's just excessive is really downplaying this power grab, is it not?
I agree with you, Dagan. It certainly would have been more appropriate if he just said that this should have never happened. But what's happening is obviously, Joe Biden's attempt to change the narrative and to buy votes for the upcoming midterm elections. In fact, when I was in my home state of Tennessee, I spent the last month doing an economic development tour of the state. When this news broke, it was met very, very sourly by the people of Tennessee. Think about the people that did not go to college. It's up to them to somehow support those that decide to do that. What about the people that worked their way through college, those that didn't take out loans, but worked hard to make certain that they were able to do this responsibly? They're all chumps, too, in Joe Biden's world. So I think this is going to be very, very poorly received by America. It's the wrong move, and Joe Manchin could have been far stronger than he was in terms of criticizing it.
Speaking of James Freeman, jump in, James.
Oh, thanks, Senator. I'm wondering, given
Morning,
that I think it should be clear to everyone, since you and your colleagues did not vote for this, did not approve this massive wealth transfer, it's not legal. And I'm wondering, what is the remedy here? Do you need to win a majority in one of the houses to be able to challenge this? Is there someone else who can challenge it in court? Is there something you can do to stop this, what appears to be a massive illegal transfer of debt, $500 billion, $1 trillion, whatever it ends up being? It's enormous, and Congress never appropriated it.
Well, clearly the Constitution and the law does not matter to the Biden administration or the Democrats. This is all about the midterm elections in November. They don't care whether it turns out to be legal or not. In fact, this probably will be struck down by the courts. And when we take control of the Congress after the November elections, I think that we'll be in a position to come back. I serve on the Appropriations Committee and address this and take it down. But in the meantime, what Joe Biden has done is make it very obvious. He's willing to do anything to try to buy votes, try to shift the narrative, try to distract the American public from the disaster that his administration has been managing this country leading up to the 2022 elections. If you think about the economy, the state that we're in right now, inflation at record high rates, gas prices, record high rates because we've lost our energy independence. From a national security standpoint, we've never been in worse shape. Think about a year ago and what happened in Afghanistan and everything that's followed. Joe Biden has been a complete disaster. Just look at our southern border. But they're trying to distract the American public's attention from that and talk about, matters that, frankly, are going to change after November.
But are you worried that voters and Republicans running for office, whether it's election or re-election, are not focused enough on that very issue? Liz Peek just wrote a column for Fox News, and she says that the focus needs to be, are you better off under Joe Biden? But it seems like whether you're talking about the raid on Mar-a-Lago, the former president's home, we're talking about Hillary Clinton this morning. In terms of those Republicans running for office, that causes a loss of focus.
Dagan, you're exactly right. What you see is the Democrats' attempt to distract, to take attention away from what should be, a sharp focus on the disaster that their policies have delivered for America. I think if you look at Joe Biden's overall approval ratings, the answer is very, very clear. He is in the tank. And what this is an attempt to distract, to deflect, and to make this election about Donald Trump, make this election about the Republicans, make this election about anything but the record that the Democrats have amassed as they put our economy in the tank. They put our nation in a far more dangerous place. Crime is rampant. Defund the police has not worked. Collapsing the border has not worked. And making America the greatest apologist in the world clearly hasn't worked overseas.
A new study finds that more than 1/4 of working families, 35% to be exact, cannot afford to cover rent, groceries, or other basic expenses. Poor working families would need an hourly pay bump of $11 per hour to make ends meet. Senator, during the August recess, you spoke with Tennessee businesses and workers about how inflation is impacting them. What did you learn? And I'll bring James back in here because he has an interesting point about this. We need higher wages line of thinking and messaging. But what say you?
Well, what I learned, and certainly it's not going to be surprising to James, every business owner told me that all of their input costs have gone up, certainly far beyond what's being reported. And if you think about wage costs, those are very, very sticky coming back down. They're not coming back down. As we look at wage increases, those are permanently inflationary increases. Now, the public is hurting, and I think the wage increases have been necessary to attract people back to the workforce, but also to help them earn a living, because every cost that they have, every cost that the American public have, certainly Tennesseans, has gone up. Joe Biden has set off the most pernicious tax in the world, and that is inflation. And he's stealing it from the people of Tennessee, the people of America, who can least afford it.
And James, your point was this: when you start talking about workers need a higher wage, be very careful what happens nationwide, because if you look to California and Sacramento and what they're doing with this, the new wage fast food wage mandate, that very often you'll see those progressive policies spread throughout the country.
Yeah, I think
government price controls won't work.
Yeah, that's the answer,
Exactly.
Senator. We need stable money, and it looks like the Fed is serious about it now. The president could help encouraging pro-growth policies so that we don't get a recession along with stable money. But yeah, the answer is not to say all these entry-level jobs in fast food, we are now going to wave a political wand and make them nice middle-class salaries. The answer is stable money, and that's how people can have real wage increases instead of, as we've seen lately, and I'm sure you heard all about it, wages that are rising but not as fast as inflation.
And James, the most obvious answer is right in front of us. In Tennessee, we drive to our jobs. And what Joe Biden has done, what the Democrats have done, is wage war on energy independence here in America. From the day they took office, they've driven the cost of fuel through the roof. Diesel fuel, gasoline, heating oil in the Northeast. You think about the inflationary impacts of that could be changed overnight if they would just cease this war on the fossil fuel industry here in America. That would take costs down for fuel. Everything that we buy has to be transported. That would be immediately deflationary. They will not do it.
Senator, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We could keep talking. Well, I'll just let you and James discuss. I'll just sit here and listen.
That was fun.
Senator Bill Hagerty. Thank you, sir.